Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Caitlin Berry, and I'm the director of Cody Gallery at Marymount University in Arlington, Virginia. I am delighted to moderate our conversation today on the occasion of the exhibition Magnifica, Goldschmied and Chiari at Cody Gallery. Magnifica is curated by Allison, Nance, and organized by international arts and artists in partnership with the Embassy of Italy and the Italian Cultural Institute in Washington, D.C. Magnifica is funded by a grant from the Directorate General for Contemporary Creativity by the Italian Ministry for Cultural Heritage and Activities and Tourism under the 2019 Italian Council Program. Thank you to our embassy partners and grantors for their support of our exhibition programming. We're excited to welcome Milan-based artists Sarah Goldschmied and Eleonora Chiari, who have been working together as the artist duo Goldschmied and Chiari since 2001. Sarah and Eleonora met in the late 90s through a shared interest in photography and feminist activism, which soon led to joint art projects and a remarkable 2-decade-long partnership. They have earned widespread respect and recognition, both in Italy and internationally, through their innovative use of photography, video, performance, and installations. Much of their work draws conceptually from philosophy, social studies, and their historic Italian background. I'm also pleased to welcome the curator of Magnifica, Allison Nance. Allison is an independent curator and has over 15 years of leadership experience in arts nonprofit management for the visual arts. She was the director of Hillier Art Space from 2013 to 2020, where she facilitated a robust schedule of artist selection and mentorship, organizing and curating over 30 exhibitions and over 85 public programs annually. She fostered initiatives and key partnerships throughout DC and the surrounding region, and broadened artist-focused projects between Washington, DC, and international counterparts. Most recently, Allison co-founded and curates Plain Sight, a new storefront gallery in the historic Parkview neighborhood in Washington, D.C., which launched with a generous public art grant from the D.C. Commission on the Arts and Humanities. She is currently the managing director of the Nicholson Project and curator of exhibitions at Culture House, D.C. For the past 4 years, she has served on the City of Alexandria, Virginia's selection committee for the prestigious Site C public art series at the Waterfront Park. And finally, we are honored to introduce Dr. Virginia or Jenny Traynor, who is the Associate Curator at National Museum of Women in the Arts in Washington, D.C. She received her Master's in Art History in 2002 from American University and completed her PhD in 2011 from the University of Maryland, where she specialized in 17th century Dutch art. Jenny has worked at the National Museum of Women in the Arts as Associate Curator since 2012. There, she has worked on exhibitions and a wide array of time periods, subjects, and media. She curated Organic Matters, Women to Watch, 2015, an exhibition of contemporary paintings, photographs, ceramics, videos, and taxidermy at the National Museum of Women in the Arts. Included in that exhibition were Goldschmied and Chiari, the artists who are at the center of our conversation today. Thank you, ladies, so much for being with us, and I'm excited to begin our discussion. I figure it is likely best to ask our first question of our curator, Allison Nance. Allison, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you came to know the work of Goldschmied and Chiari and how this exhibition came together.
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. I should have cut that bio down. I realized I pulled it from a website. It was very long, but thank you for that very nice introduction and for organizing this panel discussion this morning, and everyone for joining at 11 a.m. In DC on a Monday. I so in 2018, when I was working at International Arts and Artists as director of Hillier, we had a Sister Cities grant from the DC Arts Commission between Rome and DC. So knowing I was going there, I spoke with a bunch of people that are really familiar with Rome and more of the Italian art scene. So Emanuele Amendola, the director for the Italian Cultural Institute, Renato Maracco from the embassy, curator from the embassy, and Renato introduced me to Federica Cellini, who is a very talented filmmaker, creative, does all kinds of amazing things, was living here in DC. And I believe maybe know Sarah, is that right, from high school or maybe earlier than that? Yes. So
we have a friend in common. Yeah.
So she gave me a really robust list of artists that I should meet, and Sarah and Eleonora were like top of the list artists that I have to know. So Eleonora was really generous to come and meet me in Rome for a coffee. I think it was like my last day there, and I loved their work. She gifted me with this really beautiful book of one of their exhibitions. I was really enthralled by it. I think their work as a duo is really unique. I mean, there are other artist duos, of course, but I mean, I'm just thinking 20 years. I mean, this is a marriage, right? And it's incredible for two artists to be working so cohesively in this way. So I was really just fascinated by that story. And then I returned to Italy in 2019 for another Sister Cities collaboration. And they had an exhibition, a solo exhibition at a museum in Florence. So I was actually able to go and see the work in person, which is totally different. I mean, the work is really beautiful when it's reproduced on a website or in a book, but it's completely different because the point of a lot of their work is to experience it, to experience yourself reflected back in the work. So, and that exhibition had a huge installation, had collage work, had video, and it had some of their mirrored works as well. So that was how I got introduced to them. And then we were wanting to work together. So there was a grant opportunity. So we applied for this grant. Of course, it's all pre-COVID, but we were able to secure a really generous grant from the Italian government, which was to specifically just support artworks and artists Italian artists outside of Italy. So, yeah.
Thank you for that, Allison. It's so fascinating to hear how these things come together over many years, really, in this case. And on that note, maybe Sarah and Eleonora, can you tell us a little bit more about this particular body of work and both, the mirrored smoke images on the wall and the blown glass sculptures that are so beautiful that are in the exhibition?
Magnifica is for the people that didn't have the chance to go and see the show. It's a series of 6 mirrors, a triptych of 3 that is 3 studies for a portrait, and a diptych, and one big mirror that looks like a blooming of flowers, but of course it's smoke, and 3 vases of Murano glass that look like female lips. These works are part of this cycle of works that are this mirror made with smoke bombs that we explode in the studio and that we take pictures of. And this works looks like mental landscapes in a way. For example, this in particular for Magnifica are very carnal. They look like I have the feeling of they are very related to female body in a way, and they give this experience of blooming, of like also the idea of changing. These works are related also to time, because to time and to space, of course, because they change in every space, and they are related not only to the place they are, but also to the public. So the people that visit the show, they become part of the work. So and also time is a very it changes with all the different moments of the day, with light, and the three vases are also a phytomorphic work, because they, for us, we were thinking of carnivorous plants.
Yeah, we were inspired.
Yes, we were inspired by carnivorous plants. So they are these very sensual leaves, but also for us risky or dangerous. So it's a femininity, sexy, but also can be dangerous, and it's this work for us was thought before the COVID, but I have to say after these 2 years, I have the feeling that is very, very contemporary.
Yeah, we made this in Murano. We made the vases in Murano, and we were looking for a dialogue between the two materials, the mirror and the glass, that it's really it's transparent, and it has a dialogue with the mirror, and we were intrigued also with this physical gesture of the blower of the vases, that the blow another the lips that blows another lips, and it was interesting also to create a different shape. So we were really into this before COVID, and after also I think that this gesture of blowing, it's really powerful, related to the glasses, the sculpture that we made.
Yes, it seems that there's a wonderful tie-in to nature and sort of a feminist environmentalism to your work. And I think in some ways this ties into the work that Ginny included in the Women to Watch exhibition in 2015. Maybe Jenny, you could tell us a little bit about, you know, what compelled you to the work of Goldschmied and Chiari, and maybe how those feminist and environmental themes tie together between the work that was included in 2015 and now in this exhibition.
Yeah, sure. So we at the National Museum of Women in the Arts have an ongoing exhibition series called Women to Watch, and started in 2010, I believe. And the first one I curated was in 2015. And I took this idea of nature as a very, very broad theme. How women artists, contemporary women artists, are thinking about nature, how they're approaching nature, because as we all know, women have been conflated with the natural world for centuries, you know, for good and for bad. And so I was really interested in seeing how women in particular were addressing themes of the natural world in their art. And perhaps not surprisingly at all, many of the works in the exhibition, including this one that you're seeing by Goldschmied and Chiari, Nymphaeus. I think am I saying that right? Nymphaeus?
Yes.
Number 12 is a series of works they did really speaking to environmental issues, as some other works in the exhibition did. And so what you're seeing here is this very clever, this is what I love about their work. There's so many different kind of dualities and pushing and pulling going on. So we have this beautiful photograph, right? They're kind of playing on the history of Monet's water lilies here. And instead of seeing, water lilies in their natural habitat, here we're seeing these artificial water lilies that are made, what I understand, are from litter collected in the Tiber River in Rome. And so again, this playing with nature versus artifice, male versus female, all these different dualities that come up in their work, I find really, really interesting. And also as a historical art person, I also love when contemporary artists can reach back into art history and kind of riff on older art, so to speak. Yeah, and I have a question for the artist, if I may. Thinking about your work in the current exhibition, Magnifica. Well, first of all, I have to say I was really struck by the hymn to Isis, from which the title of this exhibition came. And again, when thinking about these dualities, particularly when it comes to women, right? We have like the virgin and the whore dichotomy. And I always just assumed that was a kind of growing out of the Christian tradition of Eve versus the Virgin Mary. But this hymn, this Egyptian hymn to Isis, I'm assuming is pre-Christian. So that's really an interesting thing. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about how you came across that and what it meant to you.
It was, we were looking for references for the basis, and we were reading, I don't have the text right now, but La Grande Madre, that is maybe the big mother in English.
The Great Mother.
The Great Mother. That is a text about this idea of femininity, but related to also generative power. So generative power, not only physical, but also creative power. It's very interesting because it's related to all these old manifests, so that represent this idea of femininity, but also like a goddess femininity. And there are a lot of pots, a lot of vases, a lot of representation of these powerful women with their bodies and so in this book there was all the story of Isis, and there was a reference to the hymn. That's why we read the hymn, and it was so powerful because thinking of how much time was written, and of course is an hymn related to the duality. It's all about like I'm this, and I'm also, but also this idea of give the idea of that you are all of this multiplicity of femininity. Of course, there is male, female, that we are in 2021 is totally different idea, but we were very fascinated, and it was so powerful. It gave this idea of magnificent femininity that we wanted to use a part of the hymn.
Oh, go ahead, Eleonora.
Just also the direction of the vase from the research that we made. We were really into the concept of something that could contain anyway, could be full, empty, and it was really interesting for us. You can use the sculpture also.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so beautiful the way you've described that. The quote that we've included both on the exhibition text and in the catalog from the Hymn to Isis, which I think captures what you're talking about so well, is always respect me, for I am the shameful and the magnificent one. So there's this, as Jenny mentions, this real duality going on. You know, women are both vilified and celebrated and objectified for their sexuality and many other myriad things in all aspects of life. So it's a beautiful quote that you've chosen to use, I think.
And I add also the idea of the mirror is also an idea of duality. So there is a reference also for the material, because you have all, and we are a duo as well. So it's interesting. It was interesting also this part.
So Allison, was that very much apparent to you when you were first introduced to Goldschmied and Chiari's work? And are there any other dualities that you have perceived in this work as well?
Yeah, so when I first saw their work, obviously, I think they're fairly well known for these Untitled View works. And I also, was reading about them online before I even met with Sarah and Eleonora, so looking at the work. But after talking with them and then also seeing being able to see the works in person, it's about their duality. It's about like when myself as a viewer stands in front of the work, I'm reflected, but also the architecture of the space is reflected. The other artworks are reflected. It's still even hard to see. You can see a reflection here, right? But it's still something you have to stand in front of to see. So definitely I was thinking about that and thinking about because they have, Sarah and Eleanor have often talked about this, their, relationship as two different people is like a constant push and pull in all the work they're creating. Because even though they are working together as, this is a solo show, they're two human beings. So they have, two different viewpoints. And it's really, I think, reflected in the work they're doing, but comes together really cohesively. But the vases were completely new work. So that was, designed and thought to be just as like an idea when we were applying for the exhibition. And I think also there was maybe talk about doing some ceramic works too. I don't know if that's still, everything with COVID, a lot of stuff shut down. So it was a little bit unsure what was going to be able to be created or not be created. But I also loved that they worked with these, traditional craftsmen in Murano to create, there's a lot of different people involved, and that's a traditional technique, very obviously Murano glass in Italy, we all know that. So I think there was a lot of different elements that were like pulled into this. But I did love these vases. even these are beautiful photos, but they are so, when you see them in person, they are so almost like candy, like the pink is so pink and like luscious, and these are very they are sexual here, but like in person they're very sexual vases, and I think they're like so elegant and sexual and like candy, and there's all this like back and forth. And Maria, who's on this Paul today wrote the essay for the catalog. In her essay, she talked about, these lips that are like about breathing life, and then the Murano glass, like blowing the glass to create these works, and then this breath that's blowing these, billowing smoke. So I think there's like a really beautiful tie into these works. So I don't know if that really answered your question. It's a little bit rambly, but yeah.
No, it was great.
I don't know. I think our approach is also performative. It starts from in our studio when we explode the smoke bomb that we use like it's kind of painting, and it's always something that you can't completely control, and we like this part of the work that continues till the end, that goes with till the end, because there's we take some picture and then we print in a digital print on the mirror and glass, and we've been working from so many years, because usually the digital cover the surface, and we were like looking for like completely reflection, because at the end the works is still performative. The viewer get into the work, when you move you see different the work change, and there's also a line in the past works like the Nymphaeas, the concept of nature that we been working since the begin, still reflecting this series of work on the Untitled View. The first Untitled View were kind of artificial landscape, some skies, night or sunset. They were the monochrome mirror, and then in this case they're more connected with the concept of blooming. So, and it was interesting also to connect, as I said before, with the transparency and the sensuality of the vases.
Yeah, and that reminded me that when we were applying for the grant, so that would have been early 2019, I think. I think for all of us, past couple of years are a little bit of a blur, but I think that would have been early 2019 when we were first applying. And we were originally talking about the work being the smoke work being these like greens and blues, and we were referencing how nature is beautiful, but also like this the toxic relationship that we have with humans have with nature, and how also it can be nature can be beautiful and be dangerous, right? And so even though the work has changed somewhat, as it evolved, to the exhibition, you're still referencing that same hymn, right? The same concept of like women and nature and being beautiful and revered, and being vilified, or they're being threatening if we have too much power, all of those. So it's really interesting that the work has changed, but it's still like the same through line in all of the work that we're seeing.
I'm really interested in this combination that you struck upon between performance, right, in deploying the smoke bombs, and then photography, and recording the performance, not only like we see here, but then ultimately in the Untitled Mirror series. And it strikes me that both of those genres are ones that women have really been in the forefront of. When photography was invented, women had an entry into it because it wasn't as regulated or exclusive yet, like painting or sculpture, right? So women were able to get in on it from the beginning. And then when you think of performance art, particularly of the 60s and 70s, it's so closely related with the feminist art movement here in the States. And so I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, you know, how you look at the performance art of the 70s, and then particularly the work of Judy Chicago and her atmospheres, right? And her, you know, also using similar smoke techniques.
Mm-hmm. First of all, we have to say that we were very influenced by American feminists, like the late 90s writers, and also a lot of American artists, feminist artists. Between these, of course, there is Judy Chicago. I have to say that when we started this body of works, I didn't know very well the part of works that she was doing during the 70s with smoke bombs. I discovered the work after. So it would be not true if I say that I was influenced by Judy Chicago before, but then after I was totally in love with this body of work, and the power of this idea during that period, that is in between land art and performance, that really so powerful also right now, and I have we started this part of works thinking of illusionism, and we wanted to use the smoke to make appear and disappear objects. So in fact, we wanted to use mirror because we were studying the illusionist practice. And at a point, the real inspiration for the colored smoke was Georges Méliès, that was an illusionist and a director. And then we started using colored smoke. But our performances were only for private, for us. Like we were exploding in the studio for taking pictures to then
yes, and we always work inside with the space and the architecture, so only inside. And then we've been reflecting a lot of her work, that it's amazing. But also we use, it's like to use painting with oil or using, it's kind of a smoke bomb, it's kind of a tool, like we use a mirror, but not like Pistoletto. It's trying to use this tool, I don't know if it is the right word. Medium, sorry. The right medium for what we want to express, and we had lots of fun using smoke bomb. I have to say, it's really, we really enjoy wearing since 6-7 years ago masks inside our studio and create this very big chaos, and then run away from this room full of smoke. And it's a practice that it's our playground. So
yeah, and we had this performance, like public performance. I think the first time was in Triennale in Milano before the COVID, before the shutdown, the lockdown in Italy. It was the day before, and it was the first time we wanted to fulfill the space. To transform the space of the museum, but the inside, like totally changing the architecture and having this feeling of mysterious mystery and also
Fini, to lose the space, yes, to have not
to lose the limits of the space of the museum.
But we've been thinking a lot about this because we never had a performance. Of course, because Judy Chicago, she's also working a lot, and it's a kind of private practice for the untitled view, for the mirror. There is the synthesis of all this performative and photography and kind of painting, and then alchemy, because we also cook this with different temperature. There's a lot that they pass through to have the untitled view, and we call action that time. But it was interesting because it was some days before the lockdown, and the museum was empty, and it was made for the streaming. And we were just me, Sarah, and the curator inside.
Some pictures are in the showreel that you had before. The picture that we see is this one is
in Triennale.
I think that you all may have just touched on this. I got a question in the chat wondering if you have met and have a dialogue with Michelangelo Pistoletto, but you referenced him just now in your conversation, yes?
Yes, we met in a different exhibition situation, and we never talk about the mirror because we met before. We have, I remember this amazing experience with him when we, in a show that we were presenting a video of Dumb Queen, of this exotic Carmen Miranda that dance in the dump. And he was looking at this video, and he really liked it. And he says, like my Venere degli Stracci.
My Venus. I don't know the translation.
The statues, his work of the statues of Venus and all this
amount of dresses, old dresses.
And they say he take life. So it was nice because he said something that vai avanti, come si dice?
You go forward. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was the future of his work, in a way. He was saying
of that vision, like it's not a copy or something, but you go ahead in this practice. So he liked it.
That's wonderful.
I think some curator that knows him and knows really well his work. They told when they saw the first time the mirror, say, it's very difficult in Italy with this reference, have the courage and the to go ahead with using that media, but you been able to cross and not to do like a reference of him, to work with your media in your way. So that's
wonderful compliment.
Yeah. Yes.
Fabulous. Well, on the subject of performance, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the performance that has just occurred in our gallery space in response to your exhibition. I wonder if it's interesting because of the limitations of traveling with COVID. We've been communicating via all of these wonderful channels, WhatsApp and Zoom and whatnot. So you came up with this vision with Mimo Mikolis, wonderful choreographer with the Washington Ballet, And there were so many other contributors with whom you have relationships, as a music producer, fashion costume designer, all of these different wonderful elements that came together. Could you maybe speak a little bit about the conversations initially about what the goals were for this performance that has been recorded and will ultimately become a video?
We are very grateful. We had after the COVID, we had this urgence of working with body performance and physical work. So we wanted, it was also an old idea to work with a choreographer and the performance of dancers reflecting in the mirrors. So we wanted to try this choreography. Mimo is a very special creative, and he immediately he was enthusiastic of the project. He found these 3 dancers from the Washington Ballet, and we worked back and forth with Zoom to think and to give him some inspirations for the performance. And we had also the opportunity to work with Carola Mamberto, who's the director of the video, of the performance, and of the documentary. She's a great director, and all this team, also the fashion designer from Italy, Serie Numerica, they've done a great work with the costumes. And we had her brother Francesco Chiari, he has done the music. We had this at the end, the result is amazing. We are so happy, and it gives it's really looks like an explosion of vitality, life, sensuality. It really I think he really understood the idea and the work that we wanted to make with the performance.
I can confirm that that is all correct. It was incredible being in the space while this performance was being executed and videotaped. I think we woke up the entire Marymount Business School at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was wonderful. I mean, everyone was so curious about what was going on, but there, just for reference, there were 3 dancers in the space who were pre-professional dancers with the Washington Ballet, 2 young women and 1 gentleman. And it was spectacular to see them interact with the work. And because of this reflective quality of the Untitled views, they were able to really, dancers prepare for performances in a mirror anyway. And so they were really able to sharply execute all of their movements. And, as a gallery director, I get nervous when any limbs kind of go flying through an exhibition space, but they were so aware of where their bodies are in space. And there was this beautiful dance literal dance going on between not only each other, but between the work and the space, and like the light fixtures, their feet would fly past with just an inch in between. I mean, it was so beautiful to see. So the first part of the exhibition, or the performance, was shot at Cody, and the second part was shot at DuPont Underground, which is a kind of old train station in DuPont Circle here in Washington, D.C. So we are very excited and anticipating a beautifully executed video when it's all completed. So we will be able to debut it.
Can I share my screen? I have a few images I could share. Just
sure, yes. That would be great, Allison.
I saw the first video edited, the video. It was really incredible feeling. It was first time we worked in a way, in a difficult but really intriguing way. It was the first time that we will be working like this. With all of you, all the people that made the costume, music spread, and we never had the chance to meet each other. And but it was so intense. And when I saw the synthesis of this, it was it was really a strong feeling. Can't wait to see you. But we made all of us something incredible. How we made it also.
Yes,
We have a
so
good
many
energy to work together. But it was really important, I think.
Yes, I agree. So many layers to the performative aspects. You know, you sort of begin with a performance in, you know, deploying the smoke bombs, and then to kind of cycle back and end with a performance in response to the object created by the performance. There are just such beautiful layers occurring there. Are there any questions from the audience? We would love for you to just drop them into the chat if you have them as you think of them, but I'll kick things off with a question for all of you. We have touched on many aspects of, you know, the challenges associated with being a woman artist, woman professional, and wondered if you could speak to any of the challenges you've faced in your respective fields as women in the arts.
For us as a duo, you mean everybody is gonna answer, right?
Our challenge to be together for the rest of our lives.
That's a big challenge.
Well, actually, I think that's so true, right? I think there's a general like idea that women can't work collaboratively together, or we're always, you know, in competition with each other, which I think sometimes that does happen because of the patriarchy. But I think that's something that is really special about your partnership, right? This really long-term thriving working relationship is really beautiful and fruitful. So you joke, and it really is. So, I mean, 20 years working together is a long time to work together.
We enjoy very much. We enjoy, and we have also fun together. And I was thinking of this idea of challenging, and I remember when we started as a female duo in Italy at the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, was very much challenging, because everybody was thinking we were splitting, or that we had to demonstrate to be smarter than everybody, to be more intellectual than our colleagues. So it was kind of challenging, not only because of being female artists, but also because of a female duo. And I was thinking that we close the cycle like with this exhibition and show that was called 100% No Genius. That was this idea of saying, okay, we are no genius. We are doing what we are doing, but we wanted just to answer with irony to this idea of
the maestro.
Yeah, this idea of being the genius artist, of course, male. And I think this was related together, like, yeah.
Allison, Jenny, any thoughts about your challenges as curators and women professionals in the visual arts?
Sorry, I was just distracted by, there was a question that popped up in the chat, but I'll just say quickly, I almost, you know, to get back to this idea of, as Allison mentioned, you know, this idea that, you know, women are always in competition with one another, or, you know, can't get along. I find it to be actually the opposite. And I like this idea of not only a collaboration in terms of, you know, this wonderful artistic duo that we have right here, but also in terms of, you know, projects like this, right? And this is a gross stereotype, and I will admit that, but I feel like collaboration is much more the MO of women. And, you know, that's kind of how I approach my curatorial practice, right? I'd like to be in collaboration with my fellow curators and other institutions. And I just find it to be a much more fruitful approach to life in general, to collaborate. And I think to have an artistic collaboration like Goldschmied and Chiari, you know, two women is a really powerful statement in and of itself, because when you think of artistic duos, it's usually a man and a woman. And of course, I think the most, you know, well-known example is Christo and Jean-Claude. And you always, you know, the man somehow just seems to suck all the oxygen out of that relationship and gets all of the attention. Or that when it's a man and a woman, you have this kind of yin and yang situation, and that, you know, one is the opposite of the other. But so when you have two women, it's a completely different scenario and different interaction. And I think, again, the nature of collaboration among women is really powerful. Cool.
Yes, it is. In my experience, I have to say, yes, it's more horizontal also, how you, the dialogue and how and what you share and how you create together. This, I think, is very interesting.
I saw for that, Taylor. I mean, I think I think some of the challenges have been, and you know, it's ongoing. It's sort of this trying to figure out, like, being a strong woman or a strong personality often gets labeled as something derogatory. And I think there are so many amazing women leaders across all sectors, but since we're talking about the arts, like, I'm looking at people who are part of this Zoom today, and, you know, there's so many incredible arts leaders. And I think that's always, there's always a little bit of that challenge that you're running up against, being, if you're outspoken or strong-willed, then you're, you know, labeled a bitch or difficult to work with, and all these things that come along with it. And I think it's, I do think it's changing, but I also think it's, like, really great to surround yourself with awesome, strong-willed women, right? Like, I'm really thankful for this project, working with Sarah and Eleonora, even though it was originally supposed to be at Hillier, and I'm, of course, sad that, you know, the circumstances changed. It really was, you know, such an amazing partnership to be able to work with Caitlin, who was a friend and colleague, and Ruth Abrahams, who's on here, designed the catalog, and Maria Sancho Arroyo wrote the essay. So there's a lot of amazing, strong women. So I think that, you know, that we still do hit that stereotype, but I also think speaking of collaboration, has been really exciting to be a part of this project. So.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, all of you, for sharing those wonderful insights. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, one from Maria Sancho Arroyo. And she asks of Sarah and Eleonora, do you envision to keep producing Untitled Views in the future, maybe with changes, or do you think you will close that chapter and start a new body of work?
Okay, it's still a big adventure, I have to say. So we have lots to experiment and to do with this incredible surface and with smoke bomb. We're still working. No, we're already working on a new project. It will be maybe in 1 or 2 years. I don't know, but it's still full of possibilities. And really, until we enjoy these possibilities and the expression that has all this combination, we will keep working on it. Not only...
Yes,
but
we work a lot with many, not only with one project, so we are already working on different ideas. We keep going, but also working on, for example, we want to work a lot with the bases for sure. That's a new cycle from now to till when we decided this is closing.
Great. And last question to round out our conversation. It's hardly a panel discussion these days if we don't bring up NFTs. So wondering what your thoughts are on or experience with NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens.
That's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Because we just minted a project in NFT. Eleonora can talk about, this idea comes from an Untitled view that is on show in Washington. She can tell more because she worked with the software.
Yeah, it's an idea that came during 2 years ago during the lockdown. We've been dancing a lot in our room because
I was with the family all the time when she was dancing.
I was completely connected with this Gaga dancing. Is a choreographer from Tel Aviv, and trying to understand my main body in a new perspective on the architecture of the body in the space, and that it's changed. And then I was connected with one of my best friend that it's software designer, and I had this idea of doing something, but it was something that a challenge. So the first idea was to do an app. Usually the app are in working with the app, but it was a single piece. So it was the first challenge that we start to cross was to make a single piece app, and to have it's and so this app is NFT, a unique app, and it's made from one of the pieces in the show, and it's a work that it's has the same interaction of the observer. We will be trying to have this.
It works sometimes as a mirror. So you mirror yourself in the works, but the works is changing all the time, like the colors, it's always changing. So you have this app and it interacts with the owner. So it's the first.
It's an artificial intelligence, yes, that work with the color, interact with the space through the camera, and constantly change like the mirrors.
But it's the first, as we know, NFT art app that was minted. So.
It goes through elaboration of transparency, colors, and the interaction of the camera with the viewer. So the viewer get in in the image like a mirroring, yeah, no, like a mirror. So it was 2 years. It's difficult to explain in English.
Wow.
But we do our best. Next time I will read something that it would be maybe
great.
clear. But
Wow.
it was a nice. We love challenge, so it was a nice challenge.
Well, I have to say, this sounds like the most interesting NFT I've heard about thus far. Way better than people.
It was
sounds
fun
great.
to make it, to think, because it made just an image is not what we're looking for. We were looking for something that has the same approach in that time, that everything was closed, so impossible to people to see physically our work, to have this approach.
Wonderful. We also have a very nice thank you from our Marymount ceramics class that says, thank you for the conversation. They enjoyed learning more about the exhibition. And I hope that they're all able to come by, taught by Marymount's own Joe Hicks. So thank you for joining us today. Eleonora and Sarah, Allison, Jenny, thank you so much for taking time and speaking with us today and having this wonderful conversation on the occasion of your exhibition, Magnifica. I invite everybody to come by and see the show. It's on view at Cody Gallery at Marymount University, 1000 North Glebe Road on the second floor. And we're open Wednesday to Friday, 12 to 5, Saturday, 12 to 3. Goldschmied and Chiari will be here in person the first week of December. And so we will have a closing reception on December 3rd from 5 to 7. And if you would like to see these wonderful women in person, please come by. Thank you so much again.